fight in and of itself brought up more questions about Canelo than I wanted asked when it came to this fight. There's a problem with Canelo Alvarez. There's a real problem. And that problem is in the form of a question. Is he the same? Is Canelo Alvarez the same? With this fight when he fought against John Ryder, 32-5, had lost to Daniel Jacobs, had lost to Billy Joe Saunders, had lost to Callum Smith, all of whom Canelo had beat. Lost to Rocky Fielding as well. And with this, many people had objections to how Canelo Alvarez fought against Triple G, specifically in the latter part of the fight when it seemed like he was losing gas, losing steam, wasn't being the productive Canelo that we know he can be. And they wanted to see this fight against an opponent that he should outright wash. What can you do? And he had a good performance, don't get it twisted. Couple knockdowns that he had. Stunned Ryder multiple times in this fight. Knocked him down in the 5th, knocked him down in the 9th, cut him up, had him bleeding, had all that stuff. He won the fight outright, absolutely. Problem was, he didn't get rid of him. I'm not big on if you get rid of somebody or not. Because if you can win the fight, you can win the fight. Understandably so. And I get, yes, how you win a fight is incredibly important. But sometimes it's a situation where somebody's just tough. And they won't go away. Understandable. There's people that may not be talent-wise up there, but in terms of heart and just overall tenacity, yeah, they're like that. They'll eat punches and keep on coming. And if the ref doesn't stop, then we gonna keep fighting. Some people are like that. And John was an incredibly tough opponent in terms of being able to take hits, his tenacity, his ability to not give up, and his constant willingness to trade, even when he was hurt. Applaud him for that. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But Canelo, in this situation, could not get him out of there. And he couldn't knock him out. And it's frustrating because of the fact that multiple times he had him stunned, wobbled, hurt. One time he had him stunned 3 times in a round and didn't get rid of him. And in rounds 10, or you can argue rounds 9, 10, 11, no, 10, 11, and 12, rounds 10, 11, and 12, at least 11 and 12, definitely. Ryder won after being beat the entirety of the fight. And he kept coming back. But he could have gotten him out there. He should have gotten him out of there with how he was beating him and the way John Ryder was fighting in this fight. He should have gotten him out of there. This fight should have ended after the 9th round. It could have ended after round 5, but he didn't. He fought like he fought against Bebo, and he fought like he fought against Gennady Golovkin. And that is, which is what I've been concerned about. One shot, power shots is his strategy. Moving forward, not necessarily using a whole bunch of head moving and allowing himself to just say, I'm going to put my guard up, walk forward, and I'm going to land big shots instead of doing what I can do, which is throw it half the power, twice the speed, and get you out of there with volume. Canelo is a great combination puncher. He's a phenomenal combination puncher. We know this. Willing to let his hands go and use head movement as a means of defense. Now, walking down, he's never been fleet of foot, ain't had a bunch of foot speed, understandable, but technically he was phenomenal. That's the reason why we viewed him as the best in the world at one point in time. But he has the defensively, slipping head movement, ability to evade punches even while moving forward, was some of the best in the world at his peak. Just look at the Daniel Jacobs fight. Where was that here? Where was that here? Where was that in the Gennady Golovkin fight? We know why it wasn't in the Dimitri Bivol fight, because he was too bulky for his own good. I've been said it. Can't fight at 175. Shouldn't fight at 170. Should not fight at 175 again after he fought Bivol the first time. Now that he beat John Ryder. Shouldn't do that at all. He better stay his butt at 168 or it's going to be a problem. But right now, looking at Canelo, even if he stays where he is, he won't be able to fight like he needs to fight. Looking at Canelo right now, if he stays where he is, he won't be able to fight like he needs to fight. There'll be a legitimate concern and a legitimate problem for fighting somebody like David Benavidez now. See, I was thinking that because he beat Gennady Golovkin after he came down from 168 or came down from 175, it will be a situation where he will be a whole lot better. Now he's readjusted back to the weight of super middleweight, readjusted to 168. Everything will be fine, and everything will be okay. Now that he's back, we'll see in the next fight, like against John Ryder, the full version of Canelo Alvarez. But with that fight, with this John Ryder fight, he's still fighting the same. He's still loading up on shots. He's still not using head movement to evade punches that he should be able to evade. And not being the Canelo that we saw in the past. And that brings up a whole new bag of concerns for me now. Now we have a legitimate question. Can he actively be able to beat somebody like a David Benavidez? Could he beat Bivol again? My whole excuse for beating Bivol, like I just said, 175 too big, can't utilize everything. 168, perfect, fine. Gennady Golovkin didn't look great. He won. Yes, he looked great for half the fight, but he won. I was benefit of the doubt, readjusted. Now he's gonna be back to what we know he can be. But if he's fighting the same way he fought Bivol, like he at 175, at 168, and he hopes to rematch Bivol either after 175 or for his own belts here in his weight class, he'll lose in both situations. Because now the same traits are showing forth. He's regressed seemingly. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Why is it that Canelo Alvarez all of a sudden doesn't look like the fighter that we were saying is a pound for pound best fighter in the world, or excuse me, the pound for pound best fighter in the world? Many people were saying that, me included, at one point in time. It was him and Terrence Crawford, at minimum 1A, 1B. That's what I had it. However you felt, he was firmly in the top three. Now, he's still there because he's undisputed champ. Don't get it twisted. But now we're looking at the talent. Talent-wise, there's a problem. There's a big problem. He's fighting like a shell of himself. And there's no restrictions involved with that now. There's no weight to blame it on. Not a short training camp, nothing like that. It's just, is this his new fighting style? And if so, why? Is it because of age? And I'm hesitant to say that because he's only 32 years old. But he's had 50 fights. We're talking about Jean-Luc, he's had 50 fights. The mileage on the body is different for everybody. And thankfully, he's been blessed enough to be able to go for this long. But at some point in time, stuff is going to catch up to you. The clock of boxing always ticks quicker than we think. And that inevitably all succumb to it at some point in time. That's what normally happens. But with somebody like Canelo, who's fighting again like Canelo's been fighting, 50 fights already at 32 years old, which I love to see, and I want to see more boxers fight more often. Absolutely. But on Cinco de Mayo, or the day after Cinco de Mayo, celebrating Cinco de Mayo, which Canelo Alvarez loves to fight on, did we see not just the celebration of a holiday, but the date of a death of the best version of Canelo Alvarez? Because now we're looking at him and I'm seeing more holes than I would like to. And with this type of fighting style, where he's plodding forward, not moving his head, not throwing combination punches, because again, like I said, he could have gotten John Ryder out of there if he threw at half the power, double the speed, and allowed for his hands to let loose, especially because he was eating punches from John Ryder, uppercuts and hooks, both through and around the guard, the high guard of Canelo. If he had used the tactics of old, he could have definitely gotten him out of there. But he's still loading up. He's still heavily relying on power shots. He's still heavily relying on a guard instead of the head movement that we know and love Canelo for. And the overall defensive ability that made him, again, the best in the world at one point in time. At minimum tied. And the definitive face to boxing. But that face to boxing argument, conversation for a whole nother day. That's a whole nother show. But in terms of this fight in particular, and with Canelo, there's cause for pause as to whether or not Canelo is regressing. And I think that pause leads to a yes. And it's dangerous. Because now that he beat John Ryder, now that he handled his mandatory, people that are coming down the pike to fight him, David Benavidez, people like Bivol, again, beat Caleb Plant. Okay, yeah, sure. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But other fighters are starting to call his name. Charlo, the fans are starting to call for Charlo to fight him. Well, these bigger names, what is it that he's going to be able to do against him with this style of boxing? Because right now, I don't know if he beats David Benavidez. Charlo, yes, I think he still is able to beat. But David Benavidez, this Canelo against David Benavidez, I am not as sure as I thought that he can win. Still think that overall Canelo is a better fighter. But if he just goes for a guard and try to overpower you with one shot, one hit of quitters, no. Not against somebody like David Benavidez. Not against the Mexican monster. This Canelo, I'm not as confident that he can beat David Benavidez. Not saying that he cannot. He can. But in terms of how confident I was, in terms of it would be a phenomenal fight, but I got Canelo winning, that Canelo that I was talking about in that fight is not the same as this Canelo I'm talking about if that fight's made. It's not the same at all. It's not the same at all. And if Canelo wants to keep his reign in his claim of being the face of boxing, he's got to be able to go back to what he was. Because what he is right now is not conducive to holding on to that throne.